Hi, Tammy. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me for a coffee.
Hi, Dirk. It's a pleasure to see you again. Thank
Gosh,
you for the invitation.
what was that on your coffee cup?
Did you see it's a unicorn? It's from my daughter, and I brought it to remember of where Wunder is going. So, and unicorn to be.
Unicorn. Oh, lovely. I love that.
Unicorn.
Unfortunately, I just have my, fortunately, I have my TEDx Luxembourg City mug. It hasn't broken yet. So I've had this for.
I didn't get this one, but when I drink water, that's the one that I have.
Hey, very good. Very good. Oh, there's an amazing story behind that bottle, but I'll leave that for another time. Tammy, if you don't mind, I'm just going to quickly sort of explain to the audience as to how you came about doing a TED Talk with us. So we organized this event, TEDx Women, so TEDx Luxembourg City Women, in December. And we were looking around, thinking for ideas. And, you know, in December, there was a lot going on in Luxembourg City, specifically with regards to micromobility. And actually, you know, mobility in general, because they had decided to go free for their public transport, which has happened quite recently, which is, you know, is that amazing, or was that, you know, populist? I mean, there's a lot of controversy about it, which I would have thought it's a no-brainer to go free on public transport. But the micromobility part, you know, a company came into Luxembourg, just kind of dumped everything. And then suddenly the mayor was like, what the hell, what's happening? And so just, you know, took everything away. It was really controversial. So we thought, right, who can we find that can come and talk about mobility in this new generation? So we found one of the most successful companies, and we contacted as high up that company as we could go. And we found you. So Tammy, thank you very much. So can I maybe just ask you to start with, can I ask you just to explain what you do and at the company you work for?
Yes, of course. So I'm currently working as Chief Mobility Evangelist and Head of Partnerships.
Sorry, wait. Hang on. You're Chief
Wait,
Mobility Evangelist.
I
Oh,
am.
what a cool name.
So it's so interesting because everybody asks me, but what do you do actually? What is that job title, right? So we think that we have so much to share about mobility, and mobility has such an great impact when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to life quality of citizens. So we thought that it was important to start to spread ways of trying to make the world more sustainable. How could we help actually cities with technologies to become a better place to live, right? So that was the idea, that I would start to spread how could we actually do that with technology. And head of partnerships is because I work somehow with all the departments of the company, so marketing, sales, business development, and trying to identify companies and opportunities that can bring value for us. So from sales to brand awareness. I'm in the middle of all of them.
Tammy, that Wunder started off as an app. It was a kind of a startup.
Yes, we start. So I started 4 years ago. We were around 20 employees, and we were a B2C carpooling app. And it was amazing because the mission of the company was trying to reduce traffic in the most gridlocked cities in the world. And I was fascinated with the mission of the company. And so we were just operating in the most crazy traffics around the road. So we started in Manila, the most gridlocked city in the world. Then we launched it in Delhi in India, and then we started to operate as well in Mumbai, Bangalore, Rio de Janeiro. I'm from Rio, so I used it to spend on average 3 hours per day commuting to work. It was crazy, so I know how it is like. And so I really came from an personal experience that made me fall in love with this idea. And then from this B2C app, because we started to grow really fast, we had a lot of users in a quite short time. We start to have big players of the industry coming to us and say, oh, but how did you do that? How come you did it so fast? So we want to start implementing, bringing this concept of startups that are quite fast, bold, and even aggressive sometimes to our big corporates, because in startups, for example, something that is extremely valuable is that you have ownership, right? So if you have an idea, of course, you share with your team. You usually have in the beginning, in the morning, you share your idea, and then after a couple of days, you go to share the results. But people don't usually stop you from anything. If you have an idea, you are aware of the company's mission, you go and do that. So I can clearly remember, for example, one day that we wanted to test the open rate of notifications when it was the B2C app still. And we said, whoa, what if we send a crazy notification that would make people curious to test this open rate, right? We would never be able to do that in a big corporate. In startups, you can, and it's quite fun. It is a great experience. It was amazing. Now we are bigger, so we have more control. It's not that fun, I would say, but it's amazing because you can see step by step how it changed, right? And these big corporates started to come to us, and we start to first share some insights, help them with market research, and then with workshops. How can it be more agile? And with that, we start to get proposals from these big corporates because they wanted to start developing apps for their own use, but with a team that was fast enough to make it happen. And
you work together with big companies and also governments then?
Yes, that came afterwards. So with these big companies, we start to develop some technologies. Afterwards, these technologies start to be used by startups. And then we realized that with different platforms, we were seeing that the cities were completely lost. Right. They had no idea what they should do actually to understand new mobility. And somehow, even being new, we were there since the beginning, so we had experience with new mobility. So we decided to start sitting with the cities and say, okay, what do you need? How can we help you with that? Because what's super interesting about Wunder is that we are a neutral company, right? We are not operating. We are not an OEM. We are not a B2C startup. We are a B2B white label version that can actually help everyone. So we have people that, we have companies that are a customer and a competitor as well. So this is quite interesting, the position that we are. Because of that, and the operators that we had in our platform, we started to talk to cities and they say, oh, I would love to understand the market and check where's the demand, what type of vehicles are being used, how can we use data actually to provide better mobility service. And that's when we start to work with the city of Hamburg. We developed with them a dashboard where they could have an overview of what the micromobility operators were doing, if they were parking their vehicles in the right zone or not, because everything that is new can be judged quite fast. But if you give the opportunity to understand what is the benefit that they can bring and use data that we have access today to make it positive for the city, why not? So we just have to listen, right?
Absolutely. And you give a really, really good summary of all of this in your TED Talk. So obviously, I'll, for those that haven't seen it, I'll just link it here below in the description. Yeah, absolutely. Right here. I see.
Check it.
YouTubers do that all the time, right? They say just here, and then they have a box up here.
Subscribe. I don't know the name in English because they have in Brazil. They always say subscribe. Click on the button. Do this. Do that.
The notification.
Turn on notifications. Yeah.
So, but definitely, people should have a look at your TED Talk. But I think what's most fascinating for me for this is that this is such a new business, and you're talking about expanding at the rate you are, and clearly you have a path, and you're working with governments, you're working with corporations, and so you knew what you were doing, or you know what you're doing, but suddenly, like, the world just changes almost unrecognizably. How did that affect you when this pandemic was announced and these lockdowns? Bearing in mind, of course, you're in Germany, where you guys are more successful than most any other country in terms of dealing with it. But how did you as a company deal with it? Have strategies changed? What's happening?
Yes, absolutely. Of course, it's changed. So we are working with transportation, right? With mobility. People are not moving around, so it stopped completely. For example, I used it to be at events basically every 2 weeks or so. I was constantly traveling around. I don't even know when we will be able to travel again, right? So it's crazy. At the same time, we can see it as a great opportunity, because we truly believe that those that are able to survive will come back stronger. And my goal, for example, in the company, what I'm working on right now, I'm working with merger and acquisition. So that's my focus right now, because we do understand that there are some companies that don't know how the next day is going to look like, right? And instead of asking to, I don't know, but laying off everyone and stopping the amazing work that they were doing, why don't we join forces and come back stronger in the future? Or if there is a great opportunity for us, why don't we acquire them and prepare our portfolio to be even nicer for our customers? Or why don't we do service to understand what the market needs right now in order to come back with the perfect products for them? So it's really a moment, I believe, for everyone to learn a lot, not only from a business point of view, but also personally, right? I think that everybody's having the chance right now to reflect, because especially when it comes to startups, we are always in a crazy speed. And sometimes no, basically every single day we need to prioritize. And when we prioritize too much, sometimes we miss the chance to get some opportunities that we might not have seen how interesting it was, and turn it into something valuable. Because I mean, it is like a hamster, yeah, just running in circles. Of course we are growing, but we might not have the chance to look and see what's going on the other side. So it is definitely a great learning opportunity. And
Can I just ask, because one of the things
yes.
you said really fascinated me, because I have a little bit of a bug about mobility, specifically micromobility.
Yeah.
So I'm an absolute fanboy of these electric scooters.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought my own because I thought, well, I'm not going to spend money renting this stuff when actually I could just one-off purchase. They're not that expensive, and
Yeah.
I can go everywhere with it. But of course, the problem then was, what do you do with these things when you arrive at your destination? And so suddenly I realized, okay, so for Christmas, I gave it to my daughter and said, yeah, but this was meant to be yours all the time. It's a Christmas present. And I started to use these scooters. But of course, I downloaded one app, and then I had to download another app because I saw less and less of that company's scooters around the place. And then I had a bunch of others. So first I downloaded Bird, and then they kind of disappeared from Brussels. Then I downloaded Lime, and that was great for a while. But then this new company came about, Dot or whatever they're called, and they're everywhere. So at one point I downloaded Dot. So I've got 3
Congrats,
apps.
Jimmy. Sorry, Jimmy's taking care of Dot here.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. No, but so I downloaded 3
Yeah.
apps, and one of them doesn't work anymore, and the other 2, I mean, it's such a pain. What you said then was, you think that this is a time when only some companies are going to get through. So do you think that this is the time when then I'm only going to have one app when we come out of this the other side, and it's just going to work for everything? I mean, is that the dream?
Yeah, I think that in general, not only from micromobility, but the industry in general, we are definitely going to see that stronger companies will stay in the market, right? What you are seeing right now with micromobility, I'm not sure if that's because of coronavirus or not, but we have many companies that are being really strategic about stopping operations in some place, because I mean, it is expensive for you to keep it running if you don't have demand, right? But at the same time, you know, something that it's truly amazing, Dirk, is that um, for example, we created with the Road Economic Forum a platform to bring together mobility, not just micromobility, but mobility players in general that are supporting COVID somehow. And we are talking about competitors. We are talking about people that don't use our platform. We are talking about, I mean, really the industry coming together for our cause. So people that are offering rides for free for people that are working in hospitals at this moment. We are seeing, I mean, people, for example, companies that are not operating, that you mentioned right now, they're not operating, but they are offering really amazing benefits for these people that are actually still working. So you might not be seeing scooters around you right now, but maybe they will be in front of a hospital right now for free for them. And this is something that I see happening in the industry, that it's not just in the industry. I think that it's a shock right now for the planet to understand that we are one, right? And for the companies that you were mentioning, I think that we will keep the strong companies working. For sure, we are going to see some companies that will not keep operating, but those that continue will definitely come back stronger, and we'll find ways of working together. I always believed on this. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I'm not sure if you are aware, but there is a concept that here in Europe, it's mobility as a service, MaaS. And their idea is to have one app, a multimodal app, in which they integrate all the players, and then you have the chance to select in one app any mobility service that you want. You can do that. But yeah, again, if we don't come together, if cities don't adopt this model, if all the players don't allow these MaaS platforms to have access to their apps, it's not going to work. Right. So for mobility in general, if everyone don't come together, it's definitely not going to, yeah, be as successful as it could be.
So yeah, I mean, I guess that would be the dream, definitely, that there's just one app on my phone, I open it up and I could use any of the services. But and as you say, I guess government intervention needs to come in and allow that to happen. And again, that's something you spoke about in your TED Talk, which is lovely. Just on a final note then, and you already started talking about personally how we should take a moment and how we should reflect, and that's great. Do you have a message? So for our audience that are watching this, bunch of TED fans, do you have anything that you want to give them? What's a takeaway?
Yes. So it's interesting because I didn't have the chance to think about it before, but now that we are talking about it, it makes total sense. So I think that this moment with COVID, it is so interesting that it's exactly the same message that I share for such a long time. And these crises is right now helping people to understand that we are one road, we are one industry, we are one. And if we don't come back together to support each other and to join forces to make everyone overcome and become even stronger after everything, I mean, we have an amazing chance right now to learn and to have a more sustainable road after this. We can see how the air quality is completely different right now. We have a chance to reduce car usage. We have the chance to join forces like we are doing with other companies right now that could be struggling. We have so much to learn right now. And I think that we should just use this moment to reflect and make sure to come back better as soon as all of this is over, and make sure to keep in mind what happened as an experience, and don't simply forget. I mean, we are too vulnerable, I would say, and it was a great opportunity for us as human beings to see that we are not able to avoid everything. We
Yeah.
don't have control.
It's great. You know, I'm noticing more and more, despite this idea of social distancing, and we all know what that means, but it's more physical distancing, isn't it? I think socially, people are coming to, I don't know if it's just because I'm involved with TED and they're organizing, and people are very, very motivated, inspired, the TED fans. But I find that people are becoming socially much more, with reflection, they're understanding the importance of working together. And I think we're seeing that across industries. I think we're seeing that just personally. It's really an inspiring time. Tamy, thank you very, very much for your time.
My pleasure.
Thanks for coming to have a coffee with me. And we will certainly talk soon.
Absolutely. We have great ideas.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye, Dirk.